Hello, mortals. I'm the BookTube Goddess, the #1 drag queen booktuber on YouTube. I have heard so much about House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune that I finally picked it up and read it earlier this year. But of course, after I read it, I found out there was a controversy around it. Why, BookTube? Why? I'll talk about the controversy in the end, but first, let's talk about the book. I've only read one TJ Klune book before, The Extraordinaries, which is a young adult, middle grade superhero fantasy with a gay main character who is a teenage boy with severe ADHD. I thought it was a very good book, and I really appreciated the depiction of ADHD not as a mental illness, but as a condition that makes you think differently than others. Now, what I love about middle grade writing is the voice. And I've mentioned this before a lot on my channel. Oh, and if you do watch my channel, make sure you are subscribed and give this video a thumbs up while you're at it. Anyway, The House on a Cerulean Sea has that same writing voice that you usually see in books for younger people, but it's a book for adults. In fact, the main character is a middle-aged social worker who is out of shape and moderately antisocial. His name is Linus, and he works for the department in charge of magical youth. And just that name gives you an idea of how whimsical the story is. Now, this is a contemporary fantasy, meaning it's set in our contemporary world, but with a twist. Magic is real. Now, children in this world who are born with magical powers are rare, and people are afraid of them, which is why they end up in special orphanages. Linus's job is to visit the orphanages and make sure those children are being treated well and not abused. Linus is a perfect bureaucrat, but he has a strong moral compass. Oh, and he has a cat. You know, someone can't be all that bad if they have a cat, especially a cat like Calliope, who is a sort of a grumpy cat. And I can relate because I also have a grumpy cat. Now, Linus is so good at his job that he is summoned by the extremely upper management to investigate a very top secret orphanage. It's way out in nowhere, away from the city where Linus lives and works. In fact, it is the House on the Cerulean Sea, so you know where the title comes from. When Linus gets there, with his cat by the way, he discovers that the children there are indeed very special, starting with a child named Lucifer, who apparently really is the son of the devil with all the demonic powers that go with it. The other children may not be as notorious as Lucifer, but they're all equally strange in their own way. Now, the orphanage is run by a man named Arthur Parnassus, and Linus struggles to come to terms with the fact that he may be attracted to Arthur. So yes, we have a gay subplot. Arthur is an idealist who believes children raised with love and care will grow up to be loving and caring adults, even if they are the offspring of the devil. This is a story about found families, about finding yourself even if you are well into middle age, about love and hope, and really it is just a feel-good novel that should appeal to many of you. The one thing that might make some of you not appreciate this book as much as it did myself is if you are not a fan of that whimsical writing style. And it has almost a fairy tale type of writing voice. And I get it, it's not for everyone. But for myself, if you didn't guess, I give this book my blessing. Oh, Did I say there was controversy surrounding this book? I did, didn't I? Do I have to talk about it? I guess I do. Recently, I found out in Jess Owen's video, which I'll link below, that TJ Klune has come under some fire for revealing that this story was inspired by real-world events, specifically something called the 60s Scoop, where Indigenous children were taken from their families by the government and forced into residential schools. It was a horrific, tragic event for Indigenous people of Canada, and the first time I heard about it was when I was watching Netflix Anne with an E, which is loosely based on Anne of Green Gables, but this one had a storyline about a young Indigenous girl forced into residential schooling. I haven't heard any blowback regarding Anne with an E, but there was definitely a white savior element to it, but it at least brought the subject to light. I certainly never heard about residential schools since it wasn't taught in history classes when I was growing up, and hopefully that will change. Anyway, TJ Klune said in an interview that while researching orphanages for House on the Cerulean Sea, he came across the 60s Scoop, and it provided some inspiration for the story. Now, the accusation is that TJ Klune is profiting off a tragic event by turning it into a feel-good fantasy. For me, I have trouble following the logic. I didn't see House on the Cerulean Sea as a retelling of that residential school history, and I don't think if TJ Klune ever mentioned it as one of his inspirations, many people would have made the connection. But I'm not an Indigenous person, so I can't speak for them. Now, I did see there was an Indigenous person who made a very impassioned defense of TJ Klune on Instagram, which I'll link below.
And you ever think, like, for people whose family's gone through schools like that maybe seeing the magical, fluffy, happy ending at the end just gives us a moment of thinking, yeah, there's hope. There's magic in the world where there can be something else than what it was. Don't think we don't know what the real truth is? I'm living proof of what it is. I don't need white saviors. I don't even need BIPOC people who don't get it to be my saviors. I don't need you going after a gay white author because he made a magical ending and was inspired by something. I don't even think a majority of you even knew what the 60 Scoop was until the 215 bodies were found. Like, I don't think you even knew about those schools until that was found. So magically, now that stuff is coming to light, you guys are just digging so that you can be like, I'm the woke person that found this. I'm the woke person that found this. I'm the woke person that found this. Well, woke person, why don't you go to the people that are causing this and change it? But no, you rather sit behind a keyboard and be a keyboard warrior and pat yourself on the back because you were the one that brought this story to light. You don't want to take on the U.S. government. You don't want to take on the Canadian government. You rather them sack our lands, our burial grounds to build a housing complex or a Walmart. Or you rather them let pipelines go through our lands because a broken promise that they give no shits about anymore. You rather just sit by while hundreds of Indigenous people are kidnapped and murdered with no answers. You don't do anything with that, do you? Do you march? Do you protest for that? No? You rather go after the easy targets. So I'm sorry, but miss me with this TJ Klune cancel stuff. I'm going to go out there and buy like 40 books of Cerulean Sea and I'm just...
But of course, hers is not a monolithic opinion. If other people do feel hurt by TJ Klune, then, it is what it is, obviously. I'll just say that many authors are inspired by historical events, especially in fantasy, but make up your own mind. Let me know in the comments what you think. There's no right or wrong opinion. I personally believe this is a good book. hearing about his inspiration didn't affect it that much for me. But again, that's just me. If you feel TJ Klune's inspiration is a deal breaker, that's fine. There is no judgment here. But hey, if anything positive comes out of this, it's at least bringing awareness to an event that should be talked about more. And I'll have a link below to the National Healing Foundation with information about the 60 Scoop and what is being done now to move forward. That's all I have. Thanks for watching. Until we meet again, may all the books you read be blessed.